Hi everybody. Another installment of Dave's Garage. There's my garage. I would be Dave. And we were going to do the next mod. I've got my my tail tidy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use that. I may have to fabricate my own and just get an integrated tail light, and I'll tell you why. On this is all adjustable. However, where this has to mount is going to be to one of those, that set of screws or that set of screws. Well, what do you see in the middle? That's the hole for the lock to unlock the seat and get the seat off. So no matter where I put this, if it's up there, maybe, I think it's still going to hit that. I might be able to still access it enough. I have to take the key off, but I have a feeling the top of the key might. Once that's in there, let's see. I know this is backwards, but this piece right there, if that was lined up there, I don't know. That might still be in the way. I may have to take the cover off. Maybe that's how I'll get that to work. So I'm going to play with that later, and we'll go ahead and see if we can make that work and clean it up a little bit. But what I can do is install my OES Frame Sliders. Pretty straightforward install. They come in the kit. You need 8mm for your engine mount bolts, and you need a torque wrench. So you torque it back to, I think, 51 or 55 foot-pounds, something like that. So what we're going to do is just take off one side. We'll go through how you install it real quick. Should be pretty straightforward. Do not loosen both sides at once. That will allow the motor to shift, and you might have something get misaligned. If the motor shifts like a millimeter or two and it doesn't line up right, then you can cross-thread it. So you want to be careful of that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this one off. And let's see, make sure. Got this oriented. Maybe we'll tilt it up just a little bit. So what we're going to do, get your kit here. Open that up. Separate them. Pull that one over there. Short one goes on the right. Make sure if there's a washer in there, it should already be installed. Make sure that that is installed and placed in there like that. That should be the same size. It's not, so we're gonna have to go up to a 10mm for that one to put that one in. The first thing you wanna do is take that one out. Now, when you pull this bolt out, there's some spacers in here. Those spacers must stay in there. So see, here I'm having to hold it in because those will want to slide out with this. So take that out. Go get your 10mm. Let me go grab one of those. All right, so what we want to do is take this and start to, now I'm looking at the old bolt, there's no anti-seize, there's no Loctite or anything, so I'm not going to put it back with any. I'm going to put it in the same way it came out. You want to carefully thread this in. You want to do this by hand. Do not use a power tool. If you do, you may end up feeling like a power tool. You want to make sure that this spins freely and there's no chance of getting cross-threaded. This is going into threaded, this is going into the motor. So if you strip this, you're not going to be happy. Once you're secure that that is seated all the way in, set your torque wrench, which I've already done. And now, torque it down. Yes, we're fancy at Dave's Garage now. I actually went and bought a goddamn torque wrench instead of just guesstimating everything. Almost there. That creaking is it. That's the bolt. It's not the torque wrench. Come on. Got to be almost there. There we go. There's our torque setting. Boom. Done. And you know what? somehow that collar came off. So we're going to back this out. Let's see, where did that come from? This piece has to go in there. I don't know how I missed that. This is why we double check everything. So when you pull that screw out, it must have been on the screw and fell off. As I was talking about not dropping it, that is cone shaped. This is cone shaped and goes in. So we want to push that in and now start rethreading by hand. That's why I always double check your work. Okay. No cross threading. Check our torque setting. There we go. There's our torque setting. I thought it was weird that I was having to put it in and it was creaking that much, so now we know why. Take these bolts, you never know what you'll need them for. If you ever had to return to stock for some reason, keep those. So let's go ahead and go to the other side. Let's get this out, make sure we got everything we need here. Yep, washer on the inside. Let's go to the other side. And let's do the same procedure. So, go back to our 8mm. Lefty-loosey. Oops. Now that's interesting. So the other side was an 8 to get it off, and a 10 to put it back on. This one's a 10 on both. Let me double check that and see if I'm right on that. That's really weird that they would use two different sizes. So here's the bolt that came off the other side, and that is clearly 8mm. This one is clearly a 10. And the one going back in is a 10, and the one that went in on a 10 is over there. So I don't know why they're doing that, but whatever. We'll roll with it here at Dave's Garage. Yeah, these are just not that tight. 51 foot-pounds is it. The other one I was able to do by hand. This one's taking a little bit more pressure. Almost. Carefully take that out. That one doesn't have those other little spacers in there. This one's just kind of more just butted up against it. So take our new one, carefully thread that in. Now here, I feel like the motor shifted a little bit. It's not quite aligned in there. That is sometimes. No, you know, it was like that before. I could tell by the way the threads are wearing into the one side. So we're going to carefully do this as much by hand before I put the leverage on it. Looks like I'm going to have to. So we're going very carefully do this. We're going to feel for any sharp tightening of resistance. My hope is that it just goes right back in the same way that it came out. It does seem to be. I think we're okay. All right, now we're tightening up. So we got it set. There we go. Save our stock bolts. Same thread pitch. One has longer threads than the other, and one's an 8 versus a 10. So remember, if you ever had to go back to stock, save these, put them in a baggie, label them. The 10 goes on the left side, the 8 goes on the other. Overall, they're almost the same length. But that's our frame sliders. Now, you know, I put these on knowing that this is not really going to protect too much of the bike. But what it will do is in a low speed crash or dropping in the driveway or fell over on the side of the road, you know, something minor, it'll help protect this. It'll help protect this. This is the biggest piece that I'm always concerned about. Falls on the side, doesn't take a lot of hit to bust this hose or that radiator. And then you're grounded, you're not getting home. I can go home with scratches and bent this or, you know, whatever. So next protection mod's gonna be for the front end. I'm gonna get the, I've got these speed metal things on here, but what I'm gonna do is get the set. They've got these things here for a lifter, whatever thing, I don't know what it's for. But there's a second set here. So I'm going to get the bigger ones that are more like what's on the Triumph over there. They're big enough, they're made of Delrin, that they act as sliders. So I'm going to get a set for there and maybe even take these off, put them here, whatever. I'll replace these metal ones. This is just what Cycle Gear had in stock. So I'm going to go ahead and get the big ones that act as protection here. I think OES sells them too. And I'll get the ones for the front, and then I'm going to get the GB Racing covers. So you remove like this bolt, that. You remove some of the bolts, and it's a thick polycarbonate type of material that goes over that and then has longer bolts, and it basically just adds extra protection. So if you go down, it takes the hit. It'll take the scratch and gouging and wear away. If you're going really high speeds, then, you know, you may end up still doing some damage. But in low, you toss a bike down the track at 100 miles an hour, shit's going to get broken. There's just no way around that. But if I have those case covers on this side and then the 2 case covers on the other side and get this thing here, I've got this up here and up in the front. I may even leave this on for a while because this is going to hit before the tail hits. It's going to hit before this hits. It may even help keep it away from the tank. Of course, if the bike flips, you're boned anyway. But, you know, you do what you can, right? So this is a start. The case covers are going to go on next, and then we'll start adding the other pieces. So that was an easy install. I like the OES. I've had Shogun, and I use them for years. The plastic's a bit softer, but when Sarah crashed her ZX6R, she went down, I think in like 3rd gear. I don't know how fast she was going, maybe like 45 miles an hour. She went a little off-roading, and when she did, it actually sheared the bolt off. So these are actually made in US. They're supposed to be harder bolts. Or I don't know if they're Section 8 or Class 8 or something like that, hardened bolt. So those should be better. But yeah, on this side, the other side just has the stator cover. Here you get the cover for this, and then the cover for here. And that'll give it some protection. So I just got a noodle on this whole tail piece. I think, like I said, if I just take the thing's there. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if water gets up in there. Every other bike I've ever owned had that exposed. So if I take this off, as long as the piece doesn't extend to where the key can't turn, then I guess I'm okay. So I'm going to go and maybe do that as a separate mod later. I got some meetings coming up. I figured I'd just come out during lunch and throw this on real quick. We'll throw this up on the web, and then we'll come back and do a tail tidy video. It's got some, you know, decent blinkers. They sent me an extra set, not sure why. But I think they're sequential. Yeah, there's all individual LEDs in there, so they should look pretty good. And it's not going to make it terribly small, but it'll at least cut this in half. And this is actually fairly heavy. This is all like stamped steel. This is steel under here. There's probably like 6 pounds in here. And maybe with the aluminum, we'll drop it down to 3. It's not a big difference, but, you know, a lot of little cumulative things add up. And it will make it look a little bit cleaner and tighter. I mean, on these bikes, this already had blinkers in the tail. So all I had to do was just buy this stupid plate and the light. Couldn't find one for the MT10. On this one, I already had blinkers here because those are the stock blinkers. I just got rid of all the tail and I just took 2 L brackets and screwed them in and bent them at the angle. Got a piece of plexiglass from Ace Hardware, took them a plate and said, here, trace this out and make me a couple of these blanks. So I have a backing plate, so it's not just metal flexing. You got a little bit of rigidity to it. And I just put 2 L brackets. That's all I got. You know, that's how I normally do things. This time I saw it for 38 bucks. Why not? You know, comes with, it's adjustable for different bikes. And I'm like, hey, let's bill it. Looks nice. So we'll take a crack at that later. But this thing is coming along nicely. Next thing I got to do is order up the mid pipe and an ECU flash and to unleash the beast. And at that point, once I get the rest of the crash protection on, we're ready for track days. This thing's broken in. Oil's changed, filters changed. We're ready to rock and roll. So stay tuned for lots of MT10 content and more of that now that we got our Triumph back. We'll see you guys.